little... Whoa, 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 whoa. So finally I have decided to try sim racing. But to be honest, I had no idea where to start, how to start, what to do. So of course, first of all, I started with some deep down research. And what other way to do research than start googling like crazy. And after few hours of reading different texts and ideas, I have decided that I need to go to Reddit because everybody knows this is the true and only source of any truth on the internet. I had to make few decisions. First of all, what game I want to play. Second of all, what wheel I want to use. And third, what I want to achieve. When it comes to the game, I must be honest, I picked Assetto Corsa because simply it was on a Steam sale and it was a really good deal, so I went with that. So not much thinking here. Second was the wheel. That one was hard because I didn't want to spend too much money on the wheel because I didn't know if I will like sim racing, if this will be my jam, and if I will do it for a longer time. So I decided that I need something cheap just to be sure that I will not spend too much money on that. So obviously the first choices are the Logitech G29 or 920 depending on the version, and Thrustmaster T150. And they both, I reckon, they're around the same price. But then I checked also that maybe a good idea would be to find some used wheel. So I started to look on Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that to find a used wheel in my area. And finally I have bought a Logitech but G25. I know this is a super old wheel, most likely around, I don't know, maybe even 10 years, but it works. It has a shifter. The pedals, from what I read on Reddit, are not that bad. So definitely a good deal. And I got it around 120 bucks, so I would say pretty sweet deal for that set. I also read that the older Logitech wheels like G25 and G27 are better than the current ones, so definitely I think that was a good decision, and we will see when I will need an upgrade on that. So the third part, how to approach it. Definitely I wanted to do this as methodically as I can, so I decided to pick one car, pick one track, and simply drive as much as possible. Of course, during that there will be many fails, so I will need to do the laps and more laps and more laps and more laps, and finally I will be able to improve. I also decided that I don't want to use any helps, in the means that I don't want any auto clutch, no auto gear changes, no auto nothing essentially. The traction control ABS, I decided that I want to use the stock, so if the car has ABS or has traction control, I want to use it. I just wanted to get the best, closest to the reality as I can, and that was my idea. When it comes to the car itself, I figured out that maybe a front wheel drive will be good for beginning, because this is most of the cars that you are using on the road. I drive myself a front wheel drive car, so I thought that maybe this will be easier. And then I thought that something small and easy to handle. What I read later, maybe that was not the best idea. So I decided that the winner in this category will be Fiat 500, the Abarth version, the Assetto Corsa version. So this will be the car that I want to do. I didn't want to apply any strict schedule for myself, so I decided that I just want to be regular and that will be all, and just drive as much as possible. And what is my goal? I simply want to improve and have fun. Maybe in short term I want to be competitive enough to start in some races, like online races. But definitely in the long term I would love to maybe try to qualify for something more ambitious, maybe not only amateur, but we will see. In short term, definitely first learn to drive the car and then try some online racing. So with all things set, I think we can go. Obviously my first laps weren't very good, so I wanted to just have a benchmark so I can find a time that I can compare to, and I did a few laps just to see what is like my, maybe not average time, but what is my current speed, how fast I can do the lap around the track, and that will be my benchmark for start. So as you can see, my first proper lap was 1:35.4. And at that point I thought, yeah, that's not that bad, I think I can work with that, and I simply started to do more and more laps. Definitely I saw that more and more laps I'm doing, I get more feeling for the car, and almost after an hour I managed to pull the time below 1:30, which was 1:29.2. And at that point I thought, yeah, that is great. So that was my first day, my first hour with sim racing, and I was really happy with what I achieved, I thought, at that point. The next days also showed some improvements. I was gradually getting better and better. I figured out where I should brake, where I should throttle, where I should turn, how hard, etc. So I was getting better and better, and I felt that I have more control of the car. Don't mind the changing environment. I was playing with the settings just to also figure out what settings I should use to play. So at that point I thought that yeah, I can see still some good progress, and I was really happy with that. As you can see, we're already 2 hours into my trainings, and I already managed to go to 1:28, which is almost 7 seconds faster than my first initial time. So I would say that the learning curve at the beginning is really quick, and you improve almost with every lap if your lap is clean. Because what I had the issues in the beginning, the biggest problem was to have consistent laps. I had a good lap, and then on the next lap in the first corner I was out, or I didn't miss some gear changes, or I was braking too late or too early, or etc. So I wasn't having any consistent lap times at that point, but I saw improvement in the lap times gradually over time. As we can see, we are already almost 2.5 hours in, and I just made 1:27, and I thought, okay, that means that I'm getting pretty good. This is 8 seconds of the initial time. I'm improving with every 10-15 minutes around a second, so I think this is very good progress for me. But later on I discovered this is not that good at all. Maybe you have noticed that I have the line assist, let's say, so the racing line is on the road on the screen, which I didn't think about turning off, because remembering some YouTube videos, I remember that people had that on, and I thought, yeah, whatever, maybe I will not even look at that. But definitely it was guiding me how to drive, where to turn, where to brake. And at the beginning I thought that this is the best thing ever and I will use this ever after. But to be honest, looking now back in time, I would say that this is the worst decision that I made in the beginning, to use the racing line, because this did not help me learn at all. Yet still I was improving. I'm already in 1:27s and the lap times were still getting better. But I started to see that the progress is getting smaller and smaller. As you can see now I made 1:27.2, which is, let's say, decent at that point, but I started to feel that the progress is slowing down, so the initial curve is flattening, and I felt that I'm going to hit some rough times quickly, and I will not be able to improve, because now at that point I felt that it was almost on the limit of what I was capable of. And as I expected, after roughly 4 hours, I started to have some problems. I don't know what was happening. I couldn't improve. I was getting worse and worse. I started to make more mistakes. I was going off track. I was missing gear changes, missing gears on the shifter, braking too late, braking too early, or spinning in the most unexpected for me places. And I started to think what is holding me back, maybe what is the problem. It's not like I was doing all of this in like one day, one sitting. This is in span of a month overall. So I was not sitting like whole day and playing the Assetto Corsa. I made like 1 hour sessions tops because this is really exhausting for me to play, let's be honest. And I started to think what can be the next step, and I thought that okay, now I need to turn off the racing line, because I felt that this is what is holding me off, because the racing line is always in the same place. But on the other hand, I am improving, so maybe I can brake later, turn in different places, go more deep into some corners or shallower in some others, comparing to the racing line. So I wanted to try the game without the racing line. And to be honest, this was the biggest game changer for me at that point. It took me almost the same time that it took me to get my best time with the racing line to get the same time without the racing line. Driving without the racing line, I was blind. I didn't know where to brake, where to turn. So I needed to learn all from the beginning. So that's why I know that racing line is bad. You should not use it. At least I feel that for me it is not working. And also, if I think in the future if I will change cars and tracks, it will be easier for me because I will be able to adapt quicker. Because if without the racing line, I will have the natural feeling of what should I do. And also without the racing line, I learned that I need to find some points on the track or outside the track that will help to guide me where I should brake, where I should turn, those reference points that I needed to drive properly. And after some time, I finally got to the point where I was in the beginning. So 1:26.5 was the time that I felt that okay, I'm at the same spot that I was before the turning of the racing line, so I can start once again. But I would say I wasted around 3 hours of my time with the racing line. And after almost over 8 hours, I finally made it to 1:25s. And at that point, I thought, okay, this must be some good time. That I don't know, I'm like in the top 5% of people driving this car on this track. I didn't thought about this earlier, but then I decided to check if there is some online ranking of the best times. Obviously there is one, but I was not aware of it. So I decided to check it, and I wanted to see how I am looking there. And obviously, as you can expect, I'm not the best, and I'm not quite even average. I examined the times, and I see that the medium time for this track in this car is 1:25. So my next goal was to beat 1:25, and I would say that if I beat this track below 1:25, if I get a lap below 1:25, that will be for me, let's say, end of this challenge, that I'm successful, that I achieved something, and I can move on to other things in sim racing. After a few more hours of failing, I figured out what I was doing wrong. I needed to ask for help Casper, the friendly ghost. And in this case, this ghost was the ghost car that really helped me improve. I was able to see what happens when I brake later, what happens when I turn in later, and what happens when I do something differently versus my last best lap. And this really helped me to improve a lot in quick time and helped me to achieve my goals. And finally, after around 12 hours, I did manage to pull off a good lap that let me go below 1:25. I will show the lap in full right now so you can see that there is no cheating here involved. You must believe me that this is me driving and this is my replay, and at the end you will see me crossing line, and yeah, hope that's enough for the proof. So in the meantime I will summarize. Definitely I would say that sim racing is really fun. This is something that I will do in the future, and I learned that you don't need any expensive gear to start sim racing and having fun. This is definitely what I would recommend for you if you want to get into it. Check if it's for you. Try with some used chipped wheel. Anything with force feedback would be sufficient. For me the benefit here is that I have the shifter. So for me the next steps now would be to drive even more, but now to try the career mode in Assetto Corsa. I heard it's not that good, but I want to see how the racing would look like with other cars, with some pressure, and definitely try some other games as well. Also, I will try to stream some of it, because recording it and then making the video is a little bit troublesome, and with streams you would get more content as well as see my progress in the game. So if you don't want to lose any of that, don't forget to subscribe so you will get notifications about the live streams and new videos. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next episode.